Okay. The Song of Roland begins with Charlemagne, the king of the Franks, having spent 7 years campaigning in Spain, successfully conquering all but the city of Saragossa. Ruled by the Saracen king Marcel, Charlemagne is wary of war and open to diplomatic resolution. So the embassy of Saragossa, Charlemagne calls a council to discuss sending an envoy to Marcel to negotiate terms. Several knights volunteer, but each is deemed too valuable or too hot-headed. Roland, Charlemagne's nephew and a fierce warrior, proposes his stepfather Ganelon for the dangerous mission. This suggestion, motivated by a long-standing animosity between Roland and Ganelon, is met with anger and resentment from Ganelon, who interprets it as a deliberate attempt to send him to his death. Despite his protestations, Ganelon is chosen as the envoy. Ganelon's betrayal. Ganelon travels to Saragossa and meets with Marcel. While ostensibly negotiating, Ganelon secretly plots with Marcel and his advisor Blancandrin to betray Charlemagne and the Franken rearguard. Ganelon, consumed by the hatred for Roland, proposes that Marcel offer a false peace treaty and hostages to Charlemagne, lulling him into a sense of security. In return, Ganelon promises to ensure that Roland and the rearguard responsible for protecting the army's rear during the retreat are isolated and vulnerable to the attack. The retreat and the appointment of the rearguard. Charlemagne, deceived by Marcel's offer and Ganelon's assurance, accepts the peace terms and prepares to withdraw his army from Spain. When asked to appoint the rearguard, Ganelon, with malicious intent, suggests Roland and his 12 peers, the most renowned and courageous knights. Despite some reservations from the Franks, Charlemagne agrees to this arrangement, unknowingly sending his most valuable warrior.
The ambush at Roncesvalles. As the Frankish army retreats through the narrow pass, the Roncesvalles and the rearguard, led by Roland, is ambushed by massive and Saracen army. Far outnumbering the Franks, Roland has been pierced fight valiantly, demonstrating incredible Roland's pride and refusal sounds and appetite. Early in the battle, Oliver Roland's close friends urges him to sound his occupant ivory horn to signal for Charlemagne's main army to return to provide reinforcements. However, Roland, driven by Emerson's pride and his desire to achieve glory through his own strength, repeatedly refused, believing that sounding horn would be sign of weaknesses. Believing that sounding horn will be sign of weaknesses and dishonor, he is confident that he is man and can defeat the Saracens on their own. Death of Pierce and Roland's change of heart. As the battle raged as the Frankish rearguard is decimated, Roland witnesses that the death of his beloved peers one by one, only when his vast majority of his men have fallen does Roland, overcome with grief and releasing the futility of his pride, finally decided to sound of upliftment. He blows the horn with such a force that it burns his temples.
Charlemagne, hearing the faint sound of the elephant from a great distance, realizes that his rearguard is in trouble. Despite Ganelon's attempt to dissuade him, Charlemagne orders his army to return to Roncesvalles. They arrive to find the battlefield littered with the bodies of the fallen Franks. Charlemagne is heartbroken by the sight and filled with righteous anger. So Roland, mortally wounded, makes his way to a hill overlooking Spain. He attempts to break his legendary sword, Durendal to prevent it from falling into Saracen hands, but is unable to. He then lies down facing Spain, confessing his sin and offering his glove to God. According to the poem, angels descend to carry his soul to paradise. So Charlemagne pursues the retreating Saracen army and engages them in another fierce battle. With divine intervention, Charlemagne defeats the Saracens and avenges the deaths of his knight. So upon returning to Aix, Ganilion is arrested and put on trial for treason. His case is defended by the Pinabel, who argues to Ganilion's innocence through trial by combat. Theory, a humble Frankish knight, steps forward to challenge Pinabel, arguing that Ganilion's actions were a betrayal, not just of Roland, but of Charlemagne's and the entire Frankish realm. Theory with God helps defeats Pinabel, proving Ganilion's guilt. Ganilion is the subject to a brutal and public execution.